Over the years, the role-playing game genre has exploded with incredible titles. Whether it's a computer RPG or franchises revamping their mechanics, there are a wide range of choices available. The question is, what are the best titles that combine role-playing game elements with hard-hitting action? Join us as we look at the top 30 best action RPGs as of 2023, and what makes them worth playing. Fallout 3. Much like Skyrim, Fallout 3's combat hasn't exactly aged well. However, at the time, it was pretty revolutionary, representing the formerly overhead 2D RPG in a fully 3D world with third and first person perspectives. The shooting felt more immersive, and VATS was more of a slow-mo targeting system for damaging specific limbs, or exploding heads in the over-the-top fashion. Aside from that, the world is well developed, channeling the isolation of a post-nuclear Fallout, while your choices had a notable impact on quests to create memorable moments. Dying Light 2 Stay Human. When going from Dying Light 1 to 2, several things were lost. Fortunately, Techland has been doing a good job at restoring some of these, while adding some new features to expand on and improve combat, legendary weapons, new enemy types, more dangerous infected, legend levels, dismemberment, and much more have been added in post-launch updates, resulting in a more visceral and engaging experience. Bastion. Supergiant Games' first title, Bastion, mixed isometric combat with some light building mechanics to create a compelling adventure. The world is a mess, and it's the player's job to put things back together, with the different structures conferring unique upgrades and facilities. Combat is fairly solid and responsive throughout, with melee and ranged options available, but it's the story and its mysteries that immerse you, thanks especially to the narrator who follows your journey. XMen Legends 2: Rise of Apocalypse. It's a shame there haven't been any action RPG titles in the vein of X-Men Legends, especially with how good Rise of Apocalypse turned out. The story was simple enough, as Magneto's Brotherhood of Mutants teamed with Xavier's X-Men to defeat Apocalypse, which allowed for squads from an extensive roster. Each character gained XP to upgrade their abilities and could even execute combos and super combos. With a central hub for viewing comic book covers and biographies, a danger room for additional missions and updated visuals over the original X-Men Legends 2 was an upgrade in almost every way, except maybe the voice acting. Weird West. An immersive sim from Wolfeye Studios, Weird West is still an action RPG with open-ended objectives and fairly responsive combat. The various playable characters and unique abilities add some flavor to the supernatural adventure, and you can either go in guns blazing or utilize stealth to take down foes. While some choices may not be that impactful, the combat is on point, the art style sharp, and the world's brimming with things to do. Transistor. Weird as it sounds, Supergiant Games' Transistor qualifies as an action RPG, though it also has a sort of real-time with pause system. Protagonist Red wields the Transistor, a powerful sword, as the Cloud Bank faces an attack at the hands of the process. During combat, players can go around whacking enemies or pause and plan actions as long as the action bar remains. After unpausing, those actions are immediately executed. With a surprising amount of depth to its encounters and functions, Transistor is a different take on the genre, but one that presents an incredible art style and music to go with its emotional story. Diablo IV. Despite a problematic launch for its first season, Diablo IV has improved by leaps and bounds since then. Classes have received more items and uniqueness to enable distinct builds and many more viable playstyles. The world has received several changes that make leveling up smoother and the endgame more enjoyable, teleporting directly to a nightmare dungeon from its sigil being one such change. Even the horse feels much better to control. Though things could always change, Diablo IV is in a pretty good spot right now and worth checking out for fans of action RPG looters. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3: The Black Order. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3: The Black Order serves as a sequel to previous Ultimate Alliance titles, and sees the return of the series after a long hiatus, with Ultimate Alliance 2 having launched in 2009, a decade before the release of its sequel. Like its predecessor, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3: The Black Order is a hack-and-slash action role-playing game. It can be played solo or cooperatively with a team of up to 4 players, with co-op gameplay also supporting the Switch's Joy-Cons. Combat is based around light and heavy attacks and heavily features combos as well. Elemental combos and special attacks known as Alliance Extreme attacks are also part of the combat mechanics. East 9 Monstrum Nox. The city of Balduck is seamless to explore and brimming with things to collect as players use traversal abilities in exciting ways. The combat is fluid and the new activities integrate seamlessly into the game. Borderlands 2. The pinnacle of the franchise, Borderlands 2 featured an unforgettable villain, some crazy loot and class synergies, and a decent story. Sure, the endgame devolved into utter chaos, especially in Ultimate Vault Hunter, but with heaps of content and significant improvements over the original, it remains the definitive looter shooter. Yes, even over Borderlands 3. System Shock 2. After the first game's success, System Shock 2 leaned more into the action aspect while still emphasizing strategy over twitch aiming. Though there were different services of UNN to choose from, each specializing in different branches like weapons, hacking, and psionics, the gameplay was still open-ended, encouraging experimentation. Of course, between all the different enemy types and weapons, it's easy to forget that System Shock 2 is a horror game, with the insanity of Shodan and the sound design still unmatched. Dead Island 2. No one expected anything from Dead Island 2 after it spent nearly a decade in limbo, so when it launched as a straightforward zombie-killing hack-and-slash title with surprisingly deep combat, it really was surprising. Using the environment to damage zombies, unique weapons that all affected the undead in different ways, the skill deck for leaning into certain playstyles, and the flesh system, which took gore and dismemberment to a whole new level, it all added to the experience. Even if the missions and story weren't anything exceptional, the latter did have some fun revelations though. Dead Island 2 gave you plenty of reason to run around and slay zombies in creative ways. And really, what more could you ask? Remnant 2. The first Remnant is the very definition of a dark horse. With little hype, it cemented itself as a compelling, challenging game that blended third-person shooting with Souls-like mechanics. So, to have Remnant 2, a bigger, bolder version with overhauled mechanics, more loot, and customization is a dream come true. The sequel offers a strong variety of enemies, fun boss fights, and more complex procedural generation for entirely different questlines and challenges in each run. Even the build variety is significantly crazier since you can effectively mix skills from two classes together. Pokemon Legends Arceus. As perhaps the biggest shift to the Pokemon formula in a long time, Pokemon Legends Arceus allowed the players to run around and capture Pokemon in real time. You can be attacked and knocked out during battles, which means deploying Pokemon to fight back. It was a big twist utilized in several unique ways throughout the story. Of course, on top of this, Arceus also featured a massive world to explore, tons of Pokemon to collect, and an enthralling story that encouraged catching them all. Lords of the Fallen. Like Dead Island 2, Lords of the Fallen is a long time coming, and it delivers on almost every single front. The dark fantasy setting with the dual world motif playing a major role in the gameplay and story, the three magic schools, each with unique playstyles, and combat which mimics Dark Souls in the best way possible. Hexworks delivered all this and more, along with some genuinely stunning visuals. Tom Clancy's The Division 2. Tom Clancy's The Division 2 has seen so many changes since its launch that it's hard to keep track. Nevertheless, it's still one of the best looter shooters available, with new exotics and gear sets leading up to a diverse range of playstyles. Combat itself feels very good, with new signature weapons adding some exceptional wrinkles without feeling like bog-standard ultimates. With how much The Division 2 has expanded in content, from the summit to countdown, it's easy to get lost in the gear grind. Monster Hunter World Iceborn. Many appreciate Monster Hunter Rise and its mechanics and the new monsters it delivers, but there's just something else to Monster Hunter World. Its combat is an altogether different kind of polish, and you're not bound to wire bugs to unleash some of the strongest attacks. The sheer range of monsters, old and new, is fun to fight, while Iceborn ups the difficulty significantly while layering on new skills, mechanics, and matchups. If the siege activities aren't your thing, then maybe you'd like to take on the vast range of optional quests, including collaboration with Resident Evil and The Witcher 3. While it could be frustrating in its own right, Monster Hunter World Iceborn is a stunning achievement for the franchise. Hogwarts Legacy. Between capturing the essence of the Wizarding World's locations and atmosphere and creating a fun open world, Hogwarts Legacy had its work cut out for it. Thankfully, even with average loot, it has stellar combat. There's nothing quite like unleashing a bevy of spells against opponents while dashing around using Avacadabra to wipe them out. Lies of P. If there's any title that could come close to feeling Bloodborne-like, it's Lies of P. The Belle Epoque era epic also tosses in aspects of Dark Souls and Sekiro as you look to break an opponent's stance and follow up with devastating blows. Along with extensive weapon customization and puppet arms for different abilities, there are also unique weapons with powerful skills, adding even more nuance to the combat. Its pacing and boss design may not be on par with From Software's best, but the fact that it invites such comparisons while delivering stunning environments and ample enemy variety is already an achievement in itself. Demon's Souls. The original Demon's Souls is something special. It kickstarted the Souls-like genre as we know it, with From Software going on to create the Dark Souls series, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring. While it's impressive, Bluepoint Games took the essence of the action RPG and polished it to a stunning degree on PS5. You could argue that the graphical upgrade alone shouldn't make it worth considering, but so much work has gone into enhancing the atmosphere and revamping locations to create a new feeling without taking away from the difficulty. Nioh 2. Team Ninja had a lot to live up to after Nioh. With Nioh 2, it delivered even more into what made the series so great. Unrelenting but fair difficulty combined with new aggressive burst mechanics to overcome your enemies. That's on top of the all-new skills, weapon types, and yokai skills, further deepening the combat while new bosses and mission parameters, including the dreaded Dark Realm. With even more potential for broken builds and extensive endgame activities to test them, Nioh 2 is a meaty experience even if its difficulty isn't for everyone. Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 is when the series fully embraced the action RPG genre, becoming a third-person shooter where Shepard could issue commands to his teammates and combo effects together. It was seamless for such a massive leap in gameplay, delivering stellar gunplay while expanding on classes and weapons to offer some more options. It's backed by an amazing story, incredible companions, memorable side quests, and one of the best final missions of any game, resulting in an unforgettable experience. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. It may not have aged all that well, but one can't discount the impact of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim's combat on the genre. Being able to dual wield and use different kinds of magic while having more agency on the development of your character was incredible, not to mention all of the different dragon shouts. The threats it offered from dragons and giants also felt fresh and challenging. Melee combat can be hit or miss, but Skyrim made up for it with the quality of its world and exploration. Starfield. You could levy many criticisms against Starfield, but the combat has marked a step up from anything Bethesda has released thus far. The overall feel of shooting is crisp, and seeing the effects of certain weapons, like ballistic weapons pushing you around in zero-G settings, is pretty cool. Throw in everything else from compelling ship design and space combat to fun side missions, and Starfield does offer enough reason to lock and load. Cyberpunk 2077. When Cyberpunk 2077 first launched, its combat was good. Not spectacular, but good. Following numerous updates, it's evolved into something truly spectacular. Between the bloody finishers, improved melee combat, and solid gunplay, it's got a toolset for more than different builds. Become a powerful hacker, spreading viruses and destroying opponents by driving cars into them. Leap around with mantis blades or toss bodies around. There are so many possibilities now, and it all feels good to control. Of course, the rest of the game being far better than before doesn't hurt either. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Widely considered one of the greatest games ever made, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt has it all. A compelling story, excellent side quests, a vast world brimming with activities and secrets, and of course, some strong combat. Refined over years, especially with the complete edition adding quick casting for signs, the combat has the right amount of feedback as you dance around and demolish enemies. Dark Souls 3. Some may love the first game, while others choose the second game to be different, but Dark Souls 3 is arguably the series' peak. It strikes a balance with the Bloodborne fast-paced battles and the classic dodge-rolling gameplay, which offers some incredible levels with striking details and delivers an incredible range of boss fights. Combine this with a healthy selection of spells and weapons for replay value, and you have one of the best action RPGs. Even after all these years, few games can touch or match the brilliance of Dark Souls 3. Final Fantasy XVI. Yes, the role-playing game mechanics, specifically the loot, are fairly light. Yes, the dungeons weren't packed with crazy mechanics. However, when it comes to embodying everything that makes the genre so worthwhile, Final Fantasy XVI is superb. The combat offers a different take on break mechanics and constantly adds new abilities and combos to try out as you progress. Above all, the presentation with its visuals and music, especially the icon fights, has to be seen firsthand. It may not be everyone's favorite game, but Final Fantasy XVI is still an accomplished action RPG. Horizon Forbidden West. Video game sequels are meant to improve on their predecessors, and Guerrilla Games took this to heart with Horizon Forbidden West. Every aspect from the skill trees and upgrade system to armor skills and open world activities is better than the first game. With so many unique movement options like the Shield Wing and Polecaster, Aloy would have even tougher machines to deal with, including the Tremor Tusk, Slaughter Spine, and Tide Ripper. It made for an enthralling adventure as the secrets of the Forbidden West were laid bare. Elden Ring. From Software's magnum opus, it takes on the open world genre, and it's nothing short of masterful. The Lands Between is brimming with secrets and challenges, and even with some repeated content and cheap enemies. It's an epic journey. If seeing what's around the corner is a big motivator, then combat is perhaps the second biggest. There are so many ways to play, to say nothing of the wide variety of spirit ashes that serve as companions. Bloodborne. It's only fitting that one of the few games that can match From Software's best works is what many consider its best work to date. Bloodborne isn't the most technically accomplished action RPG on this list due to being stuck on the PS4 for all these years. Nevertheless, it delivers a gothic Victorian setting and a sense of all-encompassing dread. The combat is still enthralling, engaging, and involving, introducing weapon transformations and firearms for new ways to topple enemies. Throw in some excellent bosses and engrossing setting, and Bloodborne still towers over its competitors. Hey, did you know that we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.